Hi everyone, it's me, Beatty Kelly Sunflower. So I'm on today to do an unboxing, flip through and first impressions of a Kickstarter Lenormand deck that I received a few days ago. So the name of the deck is called Wicked Tiles, a dark Lenormand written and illustrated by Monika Buderski. Monika Buderski also has done a couple of mass market decks. I have her Shadowland Lenormand, and she's also done a tarot deck called the Shadowland Tarot. Let's have a look at the back of the box. Artist Monika Buderski is back with a chilling Lenormand, filled with thrills and surprises, including 39 illustrated cards on velvety black damask. This spooky Lenormand oracle is about the things that frighten us. Using the cards, we can identify specific anxieties, and once acknowledged, we can then reflect upon and release them. It's about letting go. This Lenormand is grounded in Monika's unique, creepy, cozy aesthetic, while being saturated in supernatural power and acute witchedness. And this is written by Sasha Graham, author of the Darkwood Tarot and Magic of Tarot. Now, I have taken the plastic of this box. What I like about this box is that it's like an old-fashioned hardback book. Very nice. You lift it up like this. Look at the interior kind of design. It's beautiful. You get a guidebook. And you get the tarot deck, which is in this really beautiful velvet kind of surround. So let's have a look at the guidebook first. I love this kind of background. So it just talks about the copyright with Panther Studio, who are the publishers, and it was published in 2025. Dedication. I dedicate this deck and book to my loving partner, Alan, a partner who has walked with me through all the dark nights and sunny days. I also dedicate this to my ancestors whose stories of survival and resilience have continually inspired me, Monika. It's got some acknowledgements here. And it's got a content page that looks at forward, preface, introduction, care and feeding, spreads and guidance. This guidebook is 184 pages, which is quite a lot for a Kickstarter Lenormand deck. So let me look at a bit about choosing Lenormand. I first encountered Lenormand cards in my teen years when they were being reprinted during the spiritual revival of the 70s and 80s. I found them clear and simple in emblems that were much easier to read than tarot. I created my first Lenormand deck in 2016 because I loved their simplicity and straight talking messages, and because I have studied signs, symbolisms, and semiotics as well. I love creating multiples in my art practice. A combination which I couldn't resist. I crafted my first deck for the few Lenormand readers out there at the time, and it met with positive results. Unlike the many layers of tarot symbolism, petite Lenormand icons retain the same basic meanings regardless of the art. Each card represents a keyword or two, and they build to form sentences. Even when there is more than a single symbol included with the Lenormand, they remain very separate entities. This is a deck for Lenormand readers and for those with no prior card skills. Intuition can help you discover an insightful narrative that is in many cases accurate and prophetic. Apart from using the cards for clarity and self-awareness, I use Lenormand cards to speak to the dead and with ancestors and spirits. I offer advice to clients and give grand tableau readings of all 36 cards, sometimes more than with expansion cards, for the proverbial big picture. When it's got here, choosing a deck. There are several Lenormand decks out there to choose from, and like tarot, the styles vary dramatically. Choose one that resonates with you, and remember, no one learns how to use a new system overnight. It takes practice and persistence to feel comfortable with the cards. A quick notice of caution for those unaware: counterfeit decks are everywhere. Sadly, many of the decks you find on the market are not legitimate decks. The issue with these knockoffs is that they are cheap, poor quality, and don't have guidebooks. You can tell if it's fake in several ways, the most common being the cheap box and often without a logo. This can happen to any author or any size publisher. Check the information with your phone before purchasing. If there is a QR code, definitely check it out, as this is often a sign of counterfeit. Remember, the deck's pirates change their game rapidly, and this may make it difficult to spot. Counterfeit decks take a cut of the market that, as artists, writers and publishers, will require to survive. We do this out of love, not to get rich. Saving a few dollars is not worth ruining an industry. Thank you for your support. Care and feeding. Once you have your deck, you have several options. While there is nothing wrong with storing a deck on a shelf in a box, especially one as pretty as this one, you may want to keep your favourite or working deck on your altar in a special bag or pouch. I usually keep mine in a printed cloth bag at my altar with a citrine or clear quartz tucked inside. Sometimes I keep pieces of black tourmaline or obsidian inside. The type of stone will depend on the energy you wish to have with your cards. Black stones are protective and deflect negativity, whereas citrine and quartz help with clarity and focus. The citrine is pale yellow, whereas the dark orange and brownish varieties are heat-treated quartz. I love to use essential oil blends on my hands before shuffling or handling my cards. This imparts the energy of the blend and creates a relaxing atmosphere. I think that's a spelling mistake there. It should be and, it's got AD. Some blends ensure clear energy as well as increasing the ability to access information. If you feel your decks are getting a bit clogged with stagnant or negative energy, you can always give them a full moon bath. I do this once in a while when I have been reading with them for a while to activate them. It's interesting. So it's got a bit here about bonding as well. As an animalist, I feel that divination cards and items act as portals and conduits for assessing information, and the free flow energy helps make the energy more successful. You can bond with your cards by frequently handling. Some people sleep with them under their pillow for a while. My preference is to handle, shuffle, and carry them with me for about a month. Your timing or method of connecting to the cards may differ. I've also found some decks that are easier to get along with than others. The decks that look good but just don't seem to work for me in readings is a rare occurrence. If this does happen, I keep those decks for the art on my shelf or offer them to friends who may have a better connection with them. At the opposite end, you may find that some decks work for you, but the art just doesn't resonate. If this is the case, pay attention to how you feel and gift the cards to someone else. Sometimes you can enjoy a deck and use it, but there's one or two cards that you dislike enough to re-gift the deck. Sometimes just put a deck aside for a while and revisit works. I had decks I just couldn't connect with, and then after 10 years of sitting on a shelf, they clicked. How you get along with decks is a very individual experience, and there is absolutely no deck that will supply the best answer. As a reader, your connection to the deck is key to receiving the most accurate and meaningful possible answers. I like that. Then it says here, environment and reading rituals, keeping track, magical work. Let's have a read about shuffling the cards. My experiences is that a request to shuffle the cards has frightened many of my clients and has created arguments amongst readers. It seems intimidating to a new reader, and they are afraid they will look unprofessional if they aren't handling cards like a pro. I have been handling and shuffling cards for over 50 years, and I still don't shuffle like a casino croupier, nor do I care to. How you shuffle is inconsequential and irrelevant to the quality of your reading abilities. Handling the cards and feeling their energy is the most important aspect of shuffling, not technique. I will confess a pet peeve with people that divide the deck in two and slam the edges into one other until they combine into one pile again. Of course, this is because I think it indicates an aggressive personality, damages cards, and I am an animalist who likes to treat the deck like a friend and not a lifeless project. My suggestion is that you pause, take a deep breath, focus on your intention, and shuffle calmly while thinking of what it is you seek. If you have issues handling the cards due to your hand size or motor coordination, you can place them face down on a smooth surface and move them around in a circle to mix them. As I said, technique is not going to improve your reading skills or affect your outcomes negatively. Just do what feels right. I really like that. Okay, so there's a bit here about drop cards. Just put them back in the deck, or yes, use it or them as cards that set the tone of your reading if you like. With how I read cards that supposedly jump out of the deck are nothing more than an indication of how I handle the cards, not divine or spiritual intervention. You can decide for yourself. For me, the magic is in the cards I've chosen when I embrace energy and allow it to flow through me peacefully, not when I flip cards out of the deck while shuffling. If you feel spirit likes you to toss cards around, no judgment. I must admit, if I'm shuffling a deck and the cards drop out, I will read them. I don't always put them back into the deck because I think they've dropped out because they want to be read, but that's just my own personal view. Reversals. I do not read Lenormand in reverse, but have included the shadow aspect of each so you can look at the positive as well as the neutral and more challenging aspects of the cards. See, that's interesting because I didn't think that Lenormands had reversal meanings. I always thought that the playing card associations were the reverse meanings of a Lenormand deck, but it's been interesting to see how Monica views reversals when we get to the cards. Asking questions. Try to be clear about your question and stick with the interpretation rather than continue to pull cards for answers or repeat spreads because you have trouble understanding them. Try to avoid yes or no questions because the cards can be read either way. Rather, provide outcomes to your choices and ask which path will provide the best result. If you're interested in getting a specific job, try not to ask if you will get it. Instead, reframe as a process to require it. I don't understand that. Anyway, for example, you might ask what action would improve your chances of getting the job, or you can ask what the challenges of getting the job might be. There are many open-ended questions you can ask. Remember to record your questions along with the results. Dependency. I like to share thoughts regarding the possibility of becoming too dependent on one's cards. Read at will whatever you wish. However, I see the purpose of the cards as providing a support system and a way to connect with ancestors as well as your subconscious. I advise my clients not to rely on cards for making any serious decisions about health, legal situations, finances or relationships, and always encourage them to seek professional advice when necessary. I think that's quite an important thing to add, because there are a lot of people that are really dependent on cards and kind of got blinkers on and don't want to accept the reality of a situation. Okay, guidance. So it's got here reading cards, and it gives you examples. House, home or neighbourhood, cross, faith, obligation. Together, cross and house could indicate a church, literally a house with a cross on top. It can also mean keep faith in your home, or perhaps it could indicate obligations within your house or neighbourhood. The variations are often challenging because most people want to settle on one definitive meaning. However, this flexibility works to your advantage and is dependent upon the question. You will naturally pick which interpretation makes the most sense. Try using 3 cards together. Next, I'm going to give you an example of a 3-card spread, and then the grand tableau, and some examples of how to read the grand tableau. And there's a bit more here about the grand tableau, and just how to read them diagonally and horizontally. It's just a really good in-depth, and it's got here everyday advice. A 3-card spread. I use this quick little spread fairly frequently for simple and direct answers. Shuffle the cards, cut the deck, and then take 3 cards from the top of the deck. Place them left to right for the message of the day or week and what you need to hear at the moment. See, for me, when I'm doing a 3-card spread, number 2 is my number 1. My number 1 is my number 2. So I like to do current, past and future. So it's just interesting how people lay out their cards differently. Fear or fearless. I think these are all different spreads. Nobody's goal, haunted house. And then it goes into the card. So it's got the number, the name of the card, a message, a bit of a description about the image, the story behind this artwork, and a message. The shadow meaning, which is kind of like the reverse. And then for your journal, reflections and journal prompts. So 1, when did you feel rushed to share information? 2, give examples of happy news you have received in the past. Does it make a difference to you whether you receive news in person, by text, phone, call or email? If you have a preference, can you articulate why? And 4, have you had to give bad news to someone? Describe the situation and how you felt. So that's these are nice little prompts to put in your journal for each card. And then it's got combinations with the rider card, and it does that for each of the 36 cards. Let's go down to the back. And there's a bonus card. There doesn't seem to be any playing card associations in this deck. Oh, so there's actually 40 cards. I just had it in my mind that there was 39 cards. And then conclusion. Thank you for your support by purchasing and using the cards and guidebook. I hope you enjoy the art and writing. If you wish to contact me, and then it gives you her website. Then it gives you just some more decks that have been published by Lepanthea. So I think this is a very well written, detailed guidebook. Let me see what it says at the back of the book. Artist Monica Budursky painted each of these cards' fronts by hand using water charged by the full moon. Monica works in harmony with nature and ancestors. I like how it's kind of swelled, the writing. This 18th century damask wallpaper was hand-drawn by designer Stacey Williams, NG, from a wallpaper spotted in an English manor house. It became design inspirational for the book and cards. So this is this thing here, which I do like. It's quite nice. Okay, so let's have a look at the cards. Let's bring this down a bit. So the cards have got like a nice silver edging. I love the backs. There's like a Ouija board there. And are they reversible? Yes, to me they are reversed or almost reversed. Okay, as mentioned earlier, there doesn't seem to be any playing card associations, which a lot of Lenormand decks are kind of skipping nowadays. So you've got the rider, and it looks like a skeleton on a horse. It's got like a kind of like creepy feel. You've got the clover. It's a skeleton holding a clover, and there's the moon in the background. The ship. I also love the kind of like background of the cards. It's very similar to the beige wallpaper in the guidebook and box, but it's in black. Got the house, which is a haunted house. The tree, which has got a skeleton at the back of the tree. The clouds. You can see light and dark, but it's like haunted faces. The snake. Oh, look at that face on the snake coming out of a box. You've got the coffin that's sealed, and you've got the bones going across it. The bouquet held by a ghost. The scythe again, held by a ghost. The rod. This is held by like a devil looking person. The birds. The child, it's a skeleton of a doll. Child skeleton, I should say. The fox, again, is a skeleton of a fox. The bear, looks quite haunted. The star. The stork. The dog, this is a three-headed dog. The tower. The garden. The mountain. The crossroads. The mice. The heart. The ring. It's a beautiful ring, skeleton in the middle. The book looks very haunted. The letter. The ghost one. So I guess that will be the gentleman in the traditional deck. The ghost two would be the lady. Then you've got like the lily, the sun, the moon, the key. It's got number 13 on the key for door number 13, the skeleton head. Fish, which are skeletal fishes. The anchor. The cross. And then these are the extra cards. So you've got this, the swamp gitter, the planchette, Clown and the Lavender Lady. What a beautiful deck. So before I shuffle my cards, I think I want to pair them with the Shadowland Lenormand deck, which are these ones here, which I showed you earlier. Okay, so let's have a look at, let's compare them, the decks together. The Shadowland Lenormand deck is the size, almost the size of a regular tarot deck, but it's a little bit wider. And this is like a bridge size deck or pocket size deck, tarot deck. See the artwork, even though they're both spooky, they're completely different. One's got a nice black background, one's got like a cream background, and it's just a different type of aesthetic. Do they work? Let me see. I think they do, aesthetic wise, but size wise they could be a bit tricky. Kind of similar artwork. What do you think? Do you think that they match together as a pairing? I was doing the Lenormand reading and included the decks, or mixed the decks up. You know, the rod or the whip is called a rod in one deck and a broom in another. Maybe because the archetypes, one's a witch, one's a devil. The birds. This is very similar, isn't it? Kind of-ish. There's blood coming out of the star. Fish and the anchor and the cross. Okay, let's see how these cards shuffle. Oops. They're quite a smooth shuffle. My overhand shuffler. Cardstock is very smooth, and I'm not sure on the GSM, so I'm not that much of a cardstock snob, but definitely a good shuffle, which I think a riffle, bridge and overhand shufflers would appreciate. So what are my first impressions of this deck? So I like the deck. To me, it's definitely like a kind of like creepy or spooky deck that I would probably use in the winter stroke Halloween seasons, or even in any of the witchy seasons. Even though there's a ghost in most of the cards, I think they're quite easy to read. So you can see this is clearly a house. You can see this is clearly a book, clearly a letter. I think if this was laid out in the grand tableau, I don't think people would have difficulties identifying what cards are what. With the 3 extra cards, I don't think I'm going to add them in as yet, because I need to study those cards properly before I include them in my deck. I also like the guidebook. I find it to be very informative. Liked the additional parts about connecting with your deck and shuffling and rituals and care. I thought that was very important to have in a deck. In a book, sorry. I also like the little paragraph on dependency, because a lot of people do get dependent, and I like the fact that that was put in the book. I like the way that there's keywords, that there's a description for the image, the story behind the imagery, the message, and the shadow message, as well as the reflections and journal prompts. I just wish that there was an extra bit for the playing card associations, because some decks don't have playing card associations on the cards that they do in the book. Because if you're a person like me that likes to use playing card associations, I think that should have been written in. But apart from that, I think the book is very well written, and I love this wallpaper design, and I like the way that it was acknowledged where it was from. I will add a link to this deck if it's available, because it is a Kickstarter deck, and I'm not sure if it's available to buy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.